We're back. This week, we're conjuring up all the spooky facts and mysterious myths surrounding the Poltergeist movies. Throughout the 1980s, the franchise scared audiences silly with its relentless thrills and chills. And it grossed a frightening amount of money at the box office. But did its success come with an even bigger price tag? Behind the scenes, the land of make-believe turned into real-life terror. Each installment saw the untimely death of a major cast member. The eerie list includes Dominique Dunne, Will Sampson, and Heather O'Rourke. Was it all just bad luck and coincidence, or was there something darker at play? Consider us your gateway to the truth behind the Poltergeist Curse. That's today on Death in Entertainment.
Live from Los Angeles.
911, what is your emergency?
Here in Hollywood now.
2 counts of murder,
Injury and death.
Oh my God!
Shocking new details.
that has stunned the entertainment world.
This makes me a little nervous.
The hair stood up on my arms.
Just like in the movies.
What do you call this thing anyway?
Death
In entertainment.
Greetings, Deado Universe.
Hi.
What's going on?
That's great.
That is great. That's great news.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked out for you.
I'm glad something worked out for somebody because this episode, not a lot of good things are happening.
Almost nothing good.
Well, the good thing is that we're back. What's going on, everybody? My name's Kyle Ploof.
And I'm Alejandro Dowling.
And today we discuss the curse of the Poltergeist films.
Actually, something good is that the franchise has grossed a lot of money.
Yeah, I guess that's good for the people who made the movies.
The people that survived.
Yeah, can count their shekels over the graves of 4 people that have died.
More than 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning things here as well.
4 major ones.
Wow.
But there are a couple other sprinkles on the cake.
Ooh. Wow. And before we eat this cake, we got to let you know that this is a true crime comedy podcast. So don't leave us any messages or comments saying, I can't stand you laughing, because there will be laughs, okay?
If you don't think it's fun to go chuckling in the graveyard,
then go eat another cake.
go watch a different movie than Poltergeist.
That's right.
Maybe stick to The Brave Little Toaster.
That actually has one of the scariest, and we'll talk about this in a Patreon episode coming up very soon, the things that scared us as children. That scene where the toaster is having like this fever dream and the clown goes, run, and everything's on fire around him. Oh, that's one of the scariest things. That's going to be in there. Little tease right there.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, that's a pretty infamous moment.
Run. Yeah, it's very scary. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the actual scary stuff.
Okay. Okay, Kyle, I have a question for you.
I might have an answer.
Had you seen Poltergeist first, or had you heard of The Curse first?
I saw the movie first.
I heard of The Curse first.
Oh, wow. You're a
wasn't-
curse first guy.
I am a curse first. You always go curse first.
I guess so.
So it always looked very intriguing to me, but it wasn't until I was older that I actually saw it.
Oh, wow. I saw it young, and it made me scared of trees near the window.
Yes.
Made me scared of clowns,
Uh-huh.
as did the Brave Little Toaster, which we already discussed. It made me scared of, just static TV and little kids.
Yeah, that was good stuff. So to remind people that haven't seen this movie, it's about a family that's being haunted. They're called the Freelings,
Oh,
but they're not so free
no.
because they open a portal to this demonic world.
Which apparently was caused by an Indian burial ground.
Yeah, that's what you find out later in the movie, that this whole suburban development was above an Indian burial ground, and the developer had claimed that they moved all the graves over. But then Craig T. Nelson of Coach fame, he's the patriarch of the family, he finds out that they only moved the headstones.
Yep.
and they left the bodies. So that's what caused this poltergeist, this disturbance.
They're in the pool.
The girl of the little girl, her name is Carol Ann. She's kind of like the Haley Joel Osment of the crew. She can communicate with the spirits. She calls them the TV people.
They're here.
Yes, she has that famous scene. Mm-hmm. And then she gets kidnapped for a while. So that's the movie.
In real life?
No, in the movie. She gets kidnapped by the spirit.
Yes, that have never seen a TV before, and then all of a sudden can manipulate it to bring people in.
And then there's a glaring plot hole.
That is one of them.
Well, how far do you want to go with this?
Yeah.
The Freeling family is the only house on the block that is being terrorized. Well, there's a lot of other houses that are built on this burial ground nearby. How come they're not being terrorized?
Well, maybe they were, and we just didn't see it.
No, come on.
Or they're just lying like that. It didn't happen to us. We're totally fine over here.
The movie literally ends with the house being swallowed into the ground.
Yeah.
You would notice.
Yeah, that's true.
It got great reviews when it was first released.
Massive.
Roger Ebert gave it thumbs up.
Wow.
Quote, Hooper and Spielberg hold our interest by observing the everyday rituals of this family so closely that, since the family seems real, the weird events take on a certain credibility by association.
Yeah.
Time Magazine and Newsweek tagged summer of 1982 when Poltergeist opened the Spielberg summer. Because as we discussed in last week's episode, E.T. opened a week later. Mm-hmm. And both of these movies dominated the box office.
Iconic.
And it was originally given an R rating, but Spielberg appealed to the MPAA and got it down to a PG. This is a couple years before the PG-13 rating was invented. Back in the day, it was either PG or R.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of really intense movies that were PG, like Jaws. Mm-hmm. The writers, Michael Grace and Mark Victor, had wanted to make the movie a little more violent and dramatic. They had intended to kill little Carol Ann in it.
Wow.
But instead, they opted to kill her pet bird named Tweety instead.
Tweety.
And if you can believe it, that's the only death in the entire movie.
What?
The pet bird.
Wow.
And the movie's line, "They're here," was voted as the number 69 movie quote of all time.
69.
By the American Film Institute.
Oh, wow.
They're here.
Sweetheart, last night when you said they're here,
Can I take my goldfish to school?
Maybe the fallen one's just directly under our house only. Wouldn't that be a scream?
Someone got crumbs all over my bed.
Sweetie, remember last night? Do you remember when you woke up and you said they were here?
Uh-huh.
Well, who did you mean? Who's here?
The TV people.
It's crazy because there's like so much crosstalk.
Yeah.
That it's just like you could tell it was just an early movie.
Right. There's not an economy of dialogue going on.
No, it's just everybody's talking at the same time.
And you heard a little bit of Dana, the older sister, played by Dominique Dunne.
Yes.
So did you know that this story was inspired by a real incident?
Whoa.
From the 1800s?
1800s?
Yeah. So we're going to travel to Colorado.
They got sucked through the TV in the 1800s?
Well, you'll hear.
Ooh.
In Colorado, Denver area, developers wanted to make a grand park in an area where there was already a cemetery. Mm. They put out notices they were going to relocate the gravestones. And then a bit into the project, the contractors got tired. So they just started moving the headstones only. And the city was about to finish the project when one of the workers opened their big mouth.
Oh.
So then the contractor in charge was arrested.
Oh, wow.
Word spread, and suddenly the city couldn't afford to tear down the building they had built and dig up the bodies. So they just decided to finish it. Currently, there are unmarked graves under this development.
Oh, that's fun.
It's called Cheeseman Park. The graves are all under the Greek Pavilion.
Cheese, man.
It sounds like something from my neck of the woods.
Sounds like something from Mama Son.
Yeah, Mama Son, the restaurant that Dominique Dunne's boyfriend worked at.
/ murderer.
We'll get to that in a little
yeah.
bit, but we already went over it in
Yeah,
a lot of
spoiler alert.
detail last week. So if you heard last week's episode, you already know this.
Yes.
The house in Poltergeist is located in Simi Valley.
Oh.
Not too far from us.
It's a few miles.
And they get a lot of visitors.
I'm sure. They're here.
Again.
Get out.
And then a minor controversy with this movie is that whole business of Spielberg versus Hooper. So Tobe Hooper had directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a few years earlier, and Steven Spielberg was a fan. When it came time to make Poltergeist, Spielberg was told by Universal, which was funding E.T., really the bigger of the movies.
Yeah.
They said, you can't direct both of these movies at the same time.
Wow.
So then he hired his buddy Tobe Hooper to take on the directorial reins of Poltergeist. But Spielberg was very much interested in the project still. He was almost like a front.
Yeah, exactly. Collect some checks. That's pretty nice.
Because they were shot very close together and in close proximity, both productions.
Wow.
Hence why they were released a week apart in summer 1982.
E.T. phoned the bank. I'm doing both of these movies.
Yeah. Spielberg, in an interview, said, Tobe isn't a take charge sort of guy. If a question was asked and an answer wasn't immediately forthcoming, I'd jump in and say what we could do. Tobe would nod in agreement, and that became the process of our collaboration. That sounds good to me.
He's like, hey, buddy, checks in the fucking mail. You just do whatever I say.
I could direct Poltergeist.
Yeah, you just ask a few questions, and then he tells you what to do, and you go, yeah, sure, great idea, boss.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Of course, Hooper didn't like the sound of that, so then Spielberg backtracked, and he wrote a public letter in Variety.
Recanting?
Well, apologizing for what he said.
Wow. I'm very sorry, Tobe Hooper's not my bitch.
He says, regrettably, some of the press has misunderstood the rather unique creative relationship you and I shared through the making of Poltergeist. And then Zelda Rubinstein, who plays the clairvoyant Tangina.
This house is clean!
Yeah. She basically said that Spielberg was the director.
Wow.
And that when she was on set, she remembers Hooper would set up the shots and then Spielberg would make adjustments.
Oh, Spielberg was probably so pissed. You're like, I could fucking get someone to fill your tiny little shoes so quick.
She also made some digs at Hooper.
Oh, she's shitting on them both?
Well, no, she was shitting on Hooper.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Well, because she was basically saying, yeah, he wasn't the director.
But she was also giving up Spielberg. So
no,
that's almost shitting on him.
No, I think she wanted in with Spielberg.
Oh.
She was giving all credit to him.
Ooh, all praise be.
And then she insinuated that Hooper may have had a bit of a drug problem.
Oh, God. Wow. Shots fired.
Yeah. But other cast members said that Hooper said action and cut.
I mean, sure.
And that, he was the director.
Yeah.
So this is still pretty murky, although the general consensus is that Spielberg is the main force behind it.
Yeah.
And then another thing that was kind of unfair to Hooper is that in all the advertisements and then the movie itself, you know how I usually would say a film by Tobe Hooper or a Tobe Hooper film.
Tobe Hooper joint.
Instead, it's a Steven Spielberg production with no directorial credit to Hooper.
That's what I was going to say. I've never seen his name attached to this.
Like he gets credit, but not in that.
Yeah, he's in the scrolling credits at the end.
Not in the spot you want to be, exactly.
Yeah. What an egomaniac.
One might say that.
Yeah.
You know what else happened summer 82 when these movies opened?
No?
The Twilight Zone helicopter disaster.
Oh, that's right.
Which was also a Steven Spielberg production.
Oh, he wasn't there, though. He's only there when good things happen.
So Spielberg was also heavily involved in the casting. You want to hear how little Carol Ann got the role?
Probably a child brothel, if I know Steven Spielberg correctly.
Oh, God. All right, let's hear an interview with Heather O'Rourke.
Okay.
This guy came up to us. We didn't know who he was or anything.
Oh, can I actually preface this clip?
And we said,
Heather O'Rourke, born in 1975, December 27th. So sort of a Christmas baby.
Yeah.
She was joining her mom and sister at the MGM lot. Her sister, Tammy, was an actress.
Tammy O'Rourke.
and she was appearing in a movie called Pennies from Heaven, starring Steve Martin. It's actually a very powerful musical drama, and it's everything that Joker for Leah Do wanted to be, but failed at.
Shots fired.
So if you want to see an actual good musical that is very dark, Pennies from Heaven.
There you go.
So Heather O'Rourke's sister, Tammy, is in that. So that's why they're there at MGM. And this is very odd. Tammy and her mom went to grab the lunch from the counter or something. So they left Heather all by herself at the table. And in this interview, she describes a man coming up to her out of nowhere.
Possibly with glasses, a hat, and a beard.
This guy came up to us. We didn't know who he was or anything. And he said, have you ever been in any movies? And we said, no. And we were not interested in talking to this stranger at all. We said, we just wanted to eat our lunch. So he said, well, can I just interview you for this part? And we said,
she's like fucking 7 years old. And she's like, hey, creep, fuck off. I'm trying to eat food.
Not even 7.
Wow.
Sure, why not? It was for a 6-year-old, and I was only 5 at that time. And when we got in there, I had to be frightened of this pink fish and this purple pig, and I just thought it was hilarious. I just laughed. And so he didn't think that was very good of me. So he told us to come back again, and he told my mom to bring in, like, a storybook, and we had to read that, and I had to scream and cry and all this, and I just said I could not handle it much more. That day when we came in, we saw his posters, you know, from Close Encounter of the Third Kind, Jaws, and then we realized who this man was. So we thought we were just totally fools.
The total fools.
So cat's out of the bag.
Yep.
Steven Spielberg discovered her.
He likes them young.
Well, he was looking for the perfect little girl.
Yeah, he was.
For Poltergeist.
Oh, for Poltergeist. Yeah.
Are you hinting at something more sinister, Kyle?
Yeah, he's a pedophile.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Allegedly.
I didn't think we were going to get so spicy so early.
It's getting spooky in here.
Okay. Look, let's hold off for a second there.
Yeah, that's what you got to tell him.
Yeah, you're going to get sued.
Hey, pal, let's hold off a little bit with the kid touching.
Oh, my God.
I know.
All right, hold on. Let's just
hold on.
where we are in the story.
Hands in your pockets, pal.
He's casting a movie that is heavily reliant on this little girl
being on the casting couch,
looking beatific, a little angel with blonde hair, completely innocent, and she fit the bill.
And yes, he wanted the innocence to go away.
Hollywood's so weird. Like, he kept bringing her into audition until she sufficiently screamed and cried.
No shit.
It's so disturbing.
It is very disturbing.
And then when she's sufficiently terrified, okay, great, you got the part.
Yeah, get out.
Go celebrate.
My pants just got tighter.
You want a lollipop?
Oh, God.
I don't even have any innuendo with that. And you're just assuming all these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's how she got the part. And that is incredible, really. Because not only the movie advertisements and the actual movie itself, but think of the poster.
Mm-hmm.
It's her in front of the static TV.
Iconic.
And her line is the tagline. They're here.
They're here.
So in that sense, as a businessman and a creative genius, that was a very good choice.
It was.
It sold the movie. You know what you're getting. You're getting this creepy suburban nightmare.
Yeah.
Where, oh my God, that little girl's going to be terrorized. Where do we buy tickets?
Yeah.
In an interview I read with Oliver Robbins, who plays her older brother, he said Steven Spielberg toasted Heather on her birthday while on set with a bottle of wine, which he shared with all the adults. Mm-hmm. Don't get too excited, Kyle. Sure. Only the adults.
Listen, I'm not excited. He's excited.
And then Spielberg looked at Heather and said, hey, kid, when you're 21, I'm going to buy you your own bottle.
Wow.
Do you have anything to say about that?
He probably said 18 because I think the drinking age was probably 18 back then.
Well, according to Oliver Robbins,
yeah,
he said 21. That's what you have a problem with in
God,
that?
When you turn 12 at 21,
oh my God.
I'm gonna really fucking buy you a bottle.
Wow.
That's Spielberg talking.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've set up the movie. It's
set up a number of things here.
It's a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
And Heather O'Rourke is now a young superstar, really.
Yep.
But things would soon take a dark turn.
I don't like that.
Last week essentially was part 1 of the Poltergeist Curse.
Yeah.
And we went through the entire depressing saga of Dominique Dunne.
Mm-hmm.
She was murdered by her boyfriend months after this movie was released. In fact, it was still playing in some theaters when she died, technically on November 4th, 1982, but was strangled by her boyfriend, John Sweeney, on October 30th.
Yeah, in front of a terrified David Packer, who instead of calling 911, called the non-emergency line to a police station that was the wrong police station. And then when that didn't work, he called his friend instead of just dialing 3 numbers.
It's so aggravating.
Somebody help me. Someone's being choked outside. Are you in danger? I think so. The door's locked. God, I hate that guy.
To be fair, Kyle, he only had 6 minutes to save Dominique.
Yeah, no shit.
That's not much time at all.
Plus the slapping and everything before is probably about 15.
So that's horrible what happened to her. And we went into the entire trial where he got convicted of manslaughter.
Yeah.
And spent 2 years in jail.
And the judge was just so pro John Sweeney, which is insane. And after the manslaughter charge was upheld and, you know, he was actually sentenced to 7.5 years, only had to serve 2. But as soon as the jury came out and said if they had the option for murder, they would have 100% given it to him. He would have been in jail for the rest of his life. And then the judge came out and said, oh, this is a miscarriage of justice, even though he was doodling and playing hangman during the closing statements.
Yeah.
Someone wrote on our episode on YouTube that that judge was demoted to traffic court after.
I saw that. That's very interesting because I know his career was derailed. He was
good. He shouldn't have even had one.
He had designs of probably being on the Supreme Court one day.
Yeah.
And boy, did that crash and burn.
Good.
I think that John Sweeney, I don't know, like he had some kind of influence on the owner of Ma Maison and that Shapiro, that lawyer that worked for the restaurant, somehow got to the judge. They were all in cahoots and they thought John Sweeney was this big deal. I didn't mention this on the episode, but he had actually been the sous chef of Wolfgang Puck.
Oh, man.
A prestigious chef. Fuck that.
Yeah. Offer still stands, John. If you're listening to this, you want to step into a ring, try to hit somebody that can stand up for themselves. You come swing at me, baby.
I support that.
Raise some money for charity. I beat the shit out of Dominique Dunne's killer. Dominique Dunne's killer. Jesus.
You just said the dad's name.
Yeah, which is what the lawyer did too.
Yeah, to psych him out. And then you had a little bit of a problem with the dad writing about it for some reason.
Oh, yeah. He was driving around her car. She was paying his rent. He was a bum.
Oh.
And then his daughter gets murdered and he's like, I need to write about justice.
You are so full of shit.
He's walking in justice. He was fucking siphoning his daughter.
I'm glad he wrote
even
about
through
it.
her death.
I love his work. The other thing is, think of how excited Dominique was that summer when it got released. Her brother Griffin Dunne had just starred in An American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis, by the way. But how cool is that? 2 siblings starring in iconic horror movies.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then she goes and meets John Sweeney. So that's what kicks off the Poltergeist Curse. That's the first major incident.
Yeah.
And another thing connected to Dominique Dunne is her aunt and uncle, John Gregory Dunne and Joan Didion.
That's right.
So we talked about how Joan Didion wrote a book about John Dunne's death called The Year of Magical Thinking.
Brilliant.
Why don't we apply that to Poltergeist for a second? What is magical thinking? It's the idea that maybe there's life after death, maybe mind over matter, the law of contagion, that objects can carry essences. In terms of bad luck in real life, could something have happened on the set that kicked all this into motion? Perhaps.
Perhaps.
One of the rumors is that a supernatural portal was opened because in the scene where Diane Freeling, the mom, played by Jo Beth Williams, by the way,
Yeah.
she goes into her backyard and is thrown into the swimming pool. And inside the swimming pool are a bunch of skeletons. Well, those were not props.
Spooky, scary skeletons.
They were actually skeletons from India.
Yeah, real people. So it really was an Indian burial ground.
Yeah. And she wasn't told that they were real until after filming.
Good God, people.
And they look real when you see the movie. It's very effective.
Yeah.
It's weird. I guess it's very expensive to make a model of a skeleton. I mean, we have one here in the studio.
It's cheaper to get real skeletons from India.
Apparently.
Wow. People just giving away their fucking nana.
Yeah, who's donating these skeletons to be in Poltergeist?
We're shipping them to the U.S. to Universal Studios.
Yeah. So this is actually a common practice. Tobe Hooper had done it in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Whoa.
And other classic movies like The House on Haunted Hill and Frankenstein had also used real cadavers.
Wow. You said you did it in Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah.
That actually, on Friday, was the 50th anniversary of its release.
Wow.
Can you imagine? It's 50 years old.
That feels about right, actually.
I don't know. It just seems so long ago.
That really is such an influential movie.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, this is before Halloween even.
Mm-hmm.
There really wasn't any blueprint before that.
Yep. Before Freddy Krueger, before Jason.
Well, Freddy came after everything.
Well, yeah,
No
but he did it the
offense.
best.
No offense at all.
He did it the best until Terrifier just came out.
Oh, yeah. The third one's out now.
That's right.
So that's one theory, is that these skeletons were disturbed spirits.
So they killed a lot of the actors, but nobody goes after the pedo that made the movie. Interesting.
Do not denigrate Tobe Hooper like that.
Oh,
he has
God.
not done anything.
Nice misdirection. I like it.
What? And then there were some other weird things. I'm not just talking about Dominique Dunne, because I'm aware it's almost sinister and disingenuous, I would say, to suggest that the pool scene caused her death.
Yeah.
Because John Sweeney was a monster regardless of Poltergeist.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I would chalk it to bad timing. It's just the things add up is the problem with this franchise. So other things that happened during production, the famous clown scene, it attacks Robbie in the bedroom, frightening.
Terrifying.
Well, the clown's arms became very tight and started to actually choke the actor Oliver Robbins. And he screamed out, "I can't breathe." And so both Steven and Toby had thought he was ad-libbing at first and told him to look at the camera. Then they noticed his face was turning purple.
Oh, my God.
And they ran over and removed the arms from Robin's neck.
Jesus.
Robin said that if Spielberg hadn't done that, maybe he wouldn't be here today.
Oh.
The clown puppet is on display at Planet Hollywood in Caesar's Palace, incidentally.
Oh, very nice.
If you want to check that out.
I've been to Caesar's Palace. Where the hell is that?
I don't know.
It's hiding in the corner somewhere.
Maybe it's gambling, hitting the slots. So that must have been weird to have both guys constantly as director.
Yep. But, I mean, it sounds like it wasn't.
Because in the pool scene as well, Jo Beth Williams said, "I'm not getting in that pool with all the electrical equipment around us." And Spielberg said, "Oh, well, I'll jump in with you."
Oh, God.
So if you're electrocuted, then I'm electrocuted.
He should have jumped in first then.
I think that's one moment where Tobe Hooper was like, "All right, have fun."
Yeah.
And then Jo Beth Williams, while we're speaking of her, she says she had a supernatural experience herself while filming. Whenever she would go home from set, the pictures on the walls of her house would be crooked. So she'd fix them, and then the next day come home and they'd all be crooked again.
It's probably earthquakes. That's what happens. There's a lot of them out here.
And then Zelda Rubinstein, of course, she has to jump on this bandwagon where something weird happened to her.
Sure.
You wouldn't expect her to not have a weird experience, right? So she said she had a vision of her dog saying goodbye to her.
Goodbye.
And then hours later, her mom called her and told her that her dog had passed away.
Oh, boy.
Kyle,
that's such a lame fucking story.
Keep it together. I know this is shocking.
Yeah.
We knew the Poltergeist curse was going to be intense.
I had something happen to me, too. I just thought of my dog, and he's dead.
And then they asked Craig T. Nelson about his supernatural experience, and he said, nope, didn't have one.
Yeah, I'm good.
He sort of did later on, but we'll get to that.
Oh, boy.
So those are the main stories surrounding the first one. To put this in a nice package with a pretty bow, they used real skeletons on set. The subject matter is supernatural and involves angry ghosts. So that sort of invites angry ghosts in real life is the idea.
Okay.
And then the major incident is Dominique Dunne being murdered shortly after the movie's release.
Right.
So that kicks off the curse, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what if I told you it's not just Dominique Dunne from the first one? There's also Lou Perriman, who's credited as Pugsley, but Diane refers to him as Bluto in the movie.
What?
So there's a scene, he's one of the construction workers who very grossly ogles Dominique Dunne's character at the beginning, and she flips him off.
Ah.
And then a few minutes later, he's seen testing out the mom's pasta sauce through the window, and she catches him and calls him Bluto. He's a tall guy, mustache. If you watch the movie, you'll notice.
Yeah.
So something weird happened to him. On April 1st, 2009, he was living in Austin, Texas. And this guy named Seth Christopher Tatum, who was a parolee with a long history of substance abuse.
Oh, this sounds fun.
He was randomly in the area looking to create some havoc. And he broke into Lou's house and proceeded to chop him up with an axe.
Jesus. Sure it wasn't Robert Durst?
And then later on, it was revealed that he had gone to his house completely by chance. Earlier, he had attacked his mom's ex-boyfriend with garden shears.
Oh, yum.
He confessed to killing Lou Perriman and said that his motive was to steal his car.
You don't have to chop somebody up to do that.
And he was sentenced to life in prison.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah, I don't know if that's the curse or not, but...
I mean, it's something.
He was 67 years old.
Oh, imagine making it to 67 and
I
some
know.
asshole just wants your car and cuts you into a million pieces.
You're about to retire. You got the pension.
Ugh.
You're probably making your own pasta sauce now.
God.
At least he made it to 67 because Dominique Dunne only made it to 22.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. Now we come to Poltergeist II, The Other Side.
The bitch is back.
Released in 1986, the year we were born.
Oh, yeah.
Had twice the budget, grossed $40 million, so about half of the first one, but still very good.
Yeah.
It got bad reviews, though.
Oh.
Gene Siskel said, quote, "It does nothing for me, absolutely nothing, to see little kids scream in horror as special effects, clouds, and horrific creatures swirl around them."
Well, it does something to Spielberg, I'll tell you that.
He was really bothered by the children in peril situations in movies.
Oh, he doesn't like that.
Well, no. He doesn't like anything now because he's dead, but...
Yeah.
And that is not because of the Poltergeist curse.
No, that's unrelated.
So the plot of the sequel, the Freeling family is back, and the screenwriters had written Dana Dominique Dunne's character as going away to college, but she's never mentioned in the movie. So they said it sort of as out of respect for her, but
yeah,
you could have done a little tribute maybe.
Yeah, there's no curse at the college.
Well,
that's all you have to do to escape the curse. Go to university.
Yeah, but then again, it's not even mentioned.
Yeah.
So it could be anything.
True.
So the Freeling family is now living in Arizona. Should be safe, right? They're not living above any unmarked graves.
Yeah. Nothing safer than Arizona.
But unfortunately, the supernatural forces follow them there.
Oh, in this heat?
And they first visit in the form of a crazy preacher named Henry Kane, who is a bit of a cult leader.
Yeah, he creeps me out.
And he wants to claim little Carol Ann because she's the one with the powers. So in order to save their daughter, the Freelings enlist the help of a Native American shaman named Taylor. This is the plot of Poltergeist II. Why don't we hear a little bit of the trailer?
Okay.
They're back.
Let me eat.
Why the hell won't you leave us alone?
You are gonna die!
Yeah, that's another thing we could talk about on the Patreon episode. But old people being scary really scared me as a kid.
Well, yeah, I would say that character of Henry Kane, the cult leader, what a terrifying character.
Yeah. My mom worked in a nursing home when I was growing up, so I saw a lot of old people being scary. And so it was just very real.
Yeah, it's that where the wild things are sort of thing where for some reason as kids, old people just look really distorted because all the features are really exaggerated.
Yeah. You're like, whoa.
And you mix in them acting the part and it's an indelible image.
Yeah.
So the new cast members of Poltergeist II were Will Sampson, who played Taylor.
The old wise shaman named Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's, very progressive of them not to use like running water or something.
Dances with wolves.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was a shaman in real life.
Oh, that's nice.
And you might be looking at his photo saying, haven't I seen him in something before?
I know what I've seen him in.
He played deaf-mute Chief Bromden in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
A murderer.
And if you ask me, that's one of the most powerful endings in cinema.
Ooh.
Isn't that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
When he breaks through the wall. God, that's great. And the score just... yeah, really. That's a fucking movie.
Yeah.
Fuck Joker, too. And then the other new cast member was Julian Beck. He had done a lot of theater work, heavily involved in the theater scene.
The theater.
And had done bit parts here and there, but this was his real big meaty role.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is the villain, Henry Kane, who he looks like death in it. And that's because he was dying.
I am become death.
Which is, it seems like that would be problematic. You would think the insurance on the production wouldn't go for that.
What, to have a dying man?
Yeah, Julian Beck was battling stomach cancer.
Oh, wow.
And it was terminal. And so...
And they knew?
Everybody knew this going in.
Oh, wow.
And that's why he's so effective in it. He gives a great performance. The way he delivers the lines, I think, it's above and beyond what was required of the role. Other actors would maybe say something like, "You're all gonna die."
Yeah.
But his affect is so strange.
You're all gonna die.
Yeah, exactly. So he really gives it this interesting flavor. And then, I hate to say it, but the fact that he's dying... He's gaunt, he looks the part, and he embraces it fully.
Yeah.
Like he knows this is his last role, and he acts the hell out of it.
Yes.
He was so effective that little Heather O'Rourke burst into tears the first time she saw him on set.
That's what you were talking about, just seeing an old person, and it was like, oh, God.
Yeah. Well, on the first day of production, they were using real skeletons again.
Oh, my God.
And the film stock from the day came back from the lab completely black, unusable. So the studio was not so happy.
You go and you get me some real cadavers.
Yeah. And so the night before they were going to do the reshoots, Will Sampson, playing Taylor, the shaman, and he's a real life shaman, he offered to perform an exorcism. God. So he said, "Leave the doors open for me. I'm going to go there overnight." He gets there at 4 a.m. and performs this exorcism to get rid of the evil spirits. And this kind of ramps up the idea that there might be a curse.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Taylor.
And then he gave the set Muskogee Indian blessing. In the movie, the villainous Henry Crane was the prophet of his sect, but his prophecy in the end never materializes. So that makes him what, Kyle?
What?
A false prophet.
Oh.
And you know what happens to false prophets?
They're gonna die!
And they lead their followers to mass suicide. That's his backstory.
The old Jim Jones.
And for the part of Taylor, there was a lot of interest in Hollywood. In fact, none other than Dennis Hopper also auditioned for the role, claiming that he was part Apache.
Hey, I'm a shaman hotshot.
Pop quiz hotshot.
Check out this rain dance.
How many feathers do I gotta burn to perform this exorcism? So you might be thinking, Kyle, all right, let's get to the curse. Because so far all I heard about was film that went bad.
Yeah.
Well, sadly, as I told you, Julian Beck was diagnosed with stomach cancer in 1983. He was thrilled to have one more role before he kicked the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Poltergeist II wrapped in May 1985. Beck died months later on September 14th at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, age 60.
It's crazy that he was 60 years old. He looked so old.
He looked like he was 120.
Yeah, it looked like he was dying of cancer or something. I don't know if it's that or if it's just that people looked older back then. It's probably both.
Some people say that. I've seen BuzzFeed articles that asked, did people used to look older back then?
I saw the same thing.
If you think about it, especially in movies that take place in high school, like Blackboard Jungle.
What's up, fellow kids?
And they look like they're 50 years old.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm a greaser.
Oof.
And he's got a bald spot.
Yeah.
And then Will Sampson, the shaman, he suffered from scleroderma. That's a degenerative condition that affects the heart, lungs, and skin. Quite awful.
Yeah.
And so he was ill for a while. His weight fluctuated, and there were other complications due to malnutrition.
Oh, shit.
So after Poltergeist II, which was a big thing for him, he underwent a heart and lung transplant at the Houston Methodist Hospital.
Wow.
And then died on June 3rd, 1987, due to post-operative kidney failure. He was 53 years old.
Jeez.
And we have a clip here from the True Hollywood story of Poltergeist. And in this clip, Jo Beth Williams and Craig T. Nelson speak of Will Sampson.
When I heard that he had passed, I was deeply saddened and very shocked because he had seemed like, you know, a big strapping guy, not that ill.
He was buried on the reservation, and so I happened to be in the area, and I wanted to pay my respects to him, and so they had given me directions how to get to the place where he was, but I couldn't find it. I've been out there 4.5, 5 hours looking. I finally just stopped off at the store, and I said, you know, I'm looking for Will Sampson, of where he was buried, and the guy next to me is his cousin in line.
The cousin led Nelson to Sampson's gravesite.
I can remember vividly, there was the reservation burial ground, and Will had been interred maybe at 2 days. And the cicadas were like, it was a cacophony of sound. And I walked up and I said, hey, Will, it's Craig. And immediately it was this still, just went really still. I said, come on. I kind of laughed, and it was pretty amazing.
So he scared the cicadas into silence.
That's nice of him.
Come on.
Come on, you old so-and-so.
That's what I thought, too, when he told the story. Come on.
Don't you think that Will Sampson would do something cooler if he could than just make the cicadas shut up? Like, maybe the cicadas turn into $1 bills.
And shoot up your ass.
$1 bills filled with Coke.
Yeah. Ooh, now we're talking.
So, yeah, shocking but not shocking, right? These two deaths, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, people, get sick sometimes.
Do they?
Yeah.
Right after making Poltergeist 2?
Yeah, I think we should be looking into what's in the water in Los Angeles.
Skeletons.
Yeah.
Okay, well, are you keeping track of everything? We got Poltergeist 1,
Poltergeist 2,
Dominique Dunne,
yep,
and Lou Perriman. Poltergeist 2, we got Julian Beck and Will Sampson.
Yeah.
That brings us to Poltergeist 3.
33 and a third.
Released in 1988.
Wow. Quick turnaround on these, especially with bad press.
The first sequel could have been a little faster. It was a 4-year difference.
Yeah.
In the olden days, generally, it was like 3 years. The Star Wars model.
Yeah.
So the plot of Poltergeist 3, the rest of the cast wasn't interested in coming back. They were paid a lot to return for part 2, but this time around, Jo Beth Williams and Craig T. Nelson said no thanks.
Yeah, everybody's dying. We're pretty good with this.
Yeah.
Put a bow on it.
And I think the second one pretty much wrapped things up.
I mean, the first one kind of wrapped things up too.
Right. There really wasn't a need for a second one.
No.
Although fun, because we got Taylor the shaman and Kane the evil spirit.
Yeah.
Great characters.
Sure.
So part 3, it's just Carol Ann. So this is Heather O'Rourke, top billing. She said it was kind of sad returning without the other cast members.
Yeah. Now she's on a set alone with Steven Spielberg.
No, he actually has nothing to do with this anymore.
Yeah, I bet.
No, really?
Mm-hmm.
He and Toby Hooper opted out of Poltergeist 2. They weren't interested.
Oh, wow.
In fact, Hooper went on to make a sequel to the movie he really directed, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, with Dennis Hopper, by the way.
Hot shot.
So Dennis Hopper lost out on one sequel and gained another.
Hey, there you go.
I have a theory on why Steven Spielberg didn't want to continue. I think the Twilight Zone disaster spooked him so much that he didn't feel like working with kids for a while.
Yeah, he's like, I got to stop touching these kids and killing them.
Working with them.
Working.
Because he did The Color Purple and Indiana Jones.
The color of his cock when he would get all flustered looking at a child.
Indiana Jones movies.
In the Temple of Hard Cock.
And he ended the 80s doing a movie called Always. Which
Always hard for kids.
It's a real old-timey kind of melodrama.
Yeah, so he's staying away from anything young.
With Richard Dreyfuss playing a dead firefighter who comes back to make sure his wife gets laid while he's gone.
Oh, wow. I mean, there was controversy about Indiana Jones, too, with him, because him and George Lucas wanted Harrison Ford to have sex with like a 15-year-old.
What?
Yeah. You didn't hear this?
No.
When they were creating the characters, they're like, oh, he's, it's been a while since they've had sex, and she's like 23 now, and it's been like 8 years. So it's like they were saying he was fucking a 15-year-old, and they thought that was totally cool.
So Poltergeist 3, I don't know what to say,
Well, I'll have to pull up that.
That's shocking to me.
Wow.
At least.
Not to me.
At least it wasn't in the movie, correct? That was just an idea?
Could have been.
All right. But it didn't make it to the final cut.
It could have.
What? It either is or it isn't. It's not.
Correct.
Okay.
No, correct that it is or it isn't.
All right. We'll return to that.
Moving on.
Yeah. So Poltergeist 3 really doesn't have anyone from the original involved except for Heather O'Rourke. And director Gary Sherman convinced Zelda Rubinstein to come back. She and Heather are the only ones in all 3 movies.
Oh, wow.
So in part 3, Carol Ann is a little older.
Yeah.
So the flimsy plot of Poltergeist 3 is that Carol Ann, now an 11, 12-year-old, she's sent to live with her aunt and uncle in Chicago. I guess so that she can deal with her issues, speaking to a psychiatrist there and change the scenery or something. When parents are fed up with their kids and they're like, we don't want to deal with you for a little while.
Get this kid we messed up out of here.
Yeah. And then, of course, the supernatural forces follow her there.
Oh, they can travel.
Yes.
Okay.
But this movie sets it up where it's the first time, because there's no one else involved from the originals, that there's people that don't believe her that any of that happened. It's one of those.
They followed you all the way here, huh?
Yeah. Visually, though, there are some very effective things in this movie because it was shot with all practical effects, stuff that they did in the moment. And it was inspired by Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of mirrors in it, but the mirrors were actually windows to replica rooms and body doubles.
Right.
So some of it is kind of fun. The movie really takes a nosedive eventually. Lara Flynn Boyle is in it in an early role.
Oh.
And she's named Donna, just like her future Twin Peaks character.
Wow. Donna, do you wanna?
Yeah, so Poltergeist 3 ended up grossing $14 million, the worst of the three. And then it also got bad reviews again.
Nope.
Janet Maslin in the New York Times wrote, quote, Gary Sherman, who directed and co-wrote the film, has no notion of creating a coherent universe through the looking glass. He is content with fiery or body-shattering effects, interspersed with irritating small talk and accidental humor.
I mean, is it really accidental?
I wonder, because it's very campy, but it feels like it's sort of a wink-wink.
Yeah.
And the director, Sherman, said that Heather told him, so watching the movie, you see Carol Ann in peril a lot. Again.
Well, Siskel's not having that.
And so you might be thinking, oh, that's awful that Heather O'Rourke had to go through that. But director Gary Sherman says, actually, she had a ball.
Yeah.
And she told him, I really like the way you direct, and I'm going to be a director someday. So I'm going to study how you work.
I like when Steven Spielberg's not here.
And she was having fun with the practical effects.
Oh, I'm sure.
For instance, there's a part where she sees her evil reflection, and then it says, we're back, and then grabs her, and then she slides up and down on the mirror. And she said that was so much fun. It was like a roller coaster.
Oh, nice.
So I would think it'd be kind of fun to be in a horror movie as a kid, but it would have to be that kind of horror movie, I think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Really campy, like Troll 2. Yeah, this is sort of like Troll 2.
Oh my God.
If you want a comparison.
Yeah.
It does take a dip, though, which we'll get into, but suddenly Heather disappears from the movie for a while. Not too many weird things going on this set. There was a scene where there's a car chase inside the building, and then the car explodes, and the set caught fire. And a crew member almost perished.
Oh, wow.
But then nothing ended up happening bad.
Oh.
Survived.
So all's well that ends well?
No, but then when Heather showed up the next day, she had heard about this fire and was very relieved that no one was hurt. But then she asked her director, did you get the shot?
Oh, boy.
Isn't that cute?
A near death.
She didn't care about the person that almost died.
Yeah, you got that, right? Fuck.
Another piece of trivia with this movie is Carol Ann's name is spoken well over 100 times. It's just nonstop. The spirits are like, Carol Ann. And Zelda Rubinstein is like, Carol Ann. And again, what a career. She starts off being the face of Poltergeist, then becomes the face of the franchise. And now she's carrying the third installment at 11 years old.
In the Sears Tower.
The John Hancock building.
Oh.
That's the other thing.
That's Boston.
No, the Hancock Tower.
There's a John Hancock Tower also in Chicago.
You're nuts, Kyle, because the Hancock Tower in Chicago is one of the most famous buildings in the world and one of the tallest.
I thought it was Sears
And
Tower.
it's where Chris Farley died.
Oh, that's right.
But that's another plus for this movie, the Chicago setting, because it imagines the Hancock building as this utopia where there's a shopping mall inside, there's parties going on, there's businesses there. Like, you never have to leave the building.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. For a kid, I think it's kind of like a pretty solid kids kind of horror movie. Where you imagine, like, wouldn't that be cool if you lived in that building? Kind of like Dunstan Checks In.
Yeah.
Which I know is a sore spot for you.
Still hurts.
Do you want to quickly tell the audience why?
Oh, yeah. My mom was mad about something I did at school, and she made me do all my homework while her and my sister watched Dunstan Checks In the other room, and they were laughing and having the best time. and I couldn't see it.
I found out about this story because one time I'm like, you remember Dunstan Checks In? And Kyle was very bitter.
Yeah.
So this is the Dunstan Checks In of horror movies.
Oh, great.
So there was something else going on during production that I have to tell you about.
Old Sticky Fingers came back?
No. In early 1987, Heather was plagued with flu-like symptoms. Everything was treated carefully and several tests were performed at Kaiser Hospital. So about a month in, they discovered that she had some kind of parasite in her. This sounds like the plot of one of the Poltergeist movies.
Yeah, for real.
Because in the second one, her dad throws up a worm.
Yeah.
That becomes a demon.
Yeah, that's fun.
So yeah, that's kind of odd. And she was diagnosed as having Crohn's disease, which is a type of inflammatory bowel disease. And it causes inflammation in the digestive tract. So I found this interview with Heather while making Poltergeist 3, and she speaks about this illness she was suffering during production.
The reason why I'm here, because I know how it feels to be sick. Because in February, I was very sick and I almost died. Because I got these stomach pains. And my parents took me to the hospital and they said that I just had a bad case of the flu. But one day I came back home from school and my feet were all swelled up. They were really fat. And so my parents brought me back to the hospital, and they admitted me right into the hospital. They took all these blood tests and x-rays until they found out that I got a parasite from drinking water in the mountains where we used to live. And so they gave me all this medication and all that, and I'm feeling much better now.
Yeah, that's hard to listen to.
How'd she get a parasite and the whole family didn't?
I do not know.
Just from mountain water?
Yeah. So she talks about living in the mountains. Before Poltergeist, her family lived in a trailer park in Anaheim, California. And so by Poltergeist 3, Heather purchased a home for everybody in Big Bear Lake, California.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about her momager, but I haven't heard.
I know how you feel.
No, but I haven't heard anything bad. Except that, of course, she benefited from Heather's career.
Yet you're totally fine with Dominique Dunne.
What does that have to do with a momager?
He's worse. He wasn't even taking advantage. He was just taking the money without putting any work in. And then stealing her car when she's dead.
Listen, Kyle.
Driving to and from.
Dominique was an adult, a young adult, mind you, but
she was a minor.
22 years old?
When she started filming all this stuff.
Poltergeist? She was 21.
Anyway.
I'm talking about a momager that thrusts their 5-year-old into the spotlight.
I would argue that's better than Dominique Dunne.
Well, I'm so glad that you and you alone think that.
I don't know. I'm not
Nobody
alone.
else agrees with you.
This is not a...
this is a hot take.
This is not a song from Live. I alone love you. I alone will steal your car when you're dead.
And like I would do to an actual live song, I'm going to mute you.
All right, good.
So she has this parasite. And I'm not talking about Spielberg.
Yeah. That worm.
And it's just awful for a while. Pain in the abdomen, severe diarrhea, fatigue, weight loss, all of the above. And so she was prescribed cortisone, a steroid to stop the inflammation, reduce the pain. And as you can tell in that clip, it worked for a while. She said she was feeling much better there. So she's able to film Poltergeist 3 in Chicago. And for the most part was having a good time. There was a side effect to the medication, though, which was swelling. So in Poltergeist 3, her face is puffy.
Mm-hmm.
And she has what they call chipmunk cheeks.
Is that what the doctors called it?
Which did cause her insecurity.
You've been diagnosed with chipmunk cheeks.
Imagine having to, your face is going to be slapped all over the marketing and you know you got these fat cheeks from the medication.
Yeah, that sucks.
Plus you're about to go through puberty.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just an awkward time.
Yeah.
Plus you have to pay for your whole family, including your momager and your older sister who's not as successful as you.
Ooh, wow. Now you're really throwing salt in those wounds.
And the parents were divorced but amicable, by the way.
Mm.
That doesn't really have much to do with it, but thought I'd throw that in there. That brings us to Super Bowl Sunday, 1988. Who was playing, you might ask?
I guess the Bears.
Washington Redskins versus the Denver Broncos. And do you remember who won?
Broncos.
The Redskins.
Whoa, I'm getting everything wrong.
By the way, now known as the Commanders.
Yes.
I'm sorry if anyone was offended by me saying that.
Yeah, Taylor was offended.
So they're watching the big game, and Heather is throwing up every 2 hours. She drinks Gatorade per her doctor's orders because there's some electrolytes, a bit of protein in that. The next morning, she's getting ready for school, and her mom prepares her some toast to eat because she's hungry but also feeling kind of queasy.
Yeah.
So they're hoping that helps.
Some nice buttered wheat toast is good when you're sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather tries to eat it, but she can't swallow. And now her fingers and toes turn blue, and her breathing is very heavy.
Jeez.
Her mom panics and calls the local clinic, and they advise her to come right over. Heather goes to her room to get dressed, but then she falls to the ground. She's conscious, but her heart is pounding, and she has extreme shortness of breath. When paramedics arrive, she tells them that she doesn't need oxygen. She's okay, but it was clear that she did. So they give it to her anyway.
Jesus.
Outside, she throws up yet again and then apologizes to everybody.
Oh, man.
In the ambulance, she suffers cardiac arrest. And her heart is successfully restarted, and then she's flown by helicopter to a much larger children's hospital, where she undergoes an operation to remove the obstruction in her intestines. But by that point, all the toxins have ravaged her system, and it's all too much, and it's entered the bloodstream, and she dies on the operating table. Dead at 12 years old, and she had just turned 12, remember, on December 27th.
Wow.
So this is now...
Not even 2 months.
February 1st.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
Barely over a month, being 12.
Turns out she didn't have inflammation of the bowel, but it was a blockage of the intestine. On her final morning, it turned into a complete blockage and her system was backing up. And so that's what caused her to go into septic shock. This blockage was discovered during the emergency surgery. So it was a complete misdiagnosis. It wasn't Crohn's disease. It was just, there's a blockage and you need to perform surgery.
Yeah.
Had that surgery been performed a year earlier when she first was looking for help, it would have saved her life. Kaiser released a statement after her death, quote, "This is a very tragic case for all concerned. It's also an extremely complex case, complicated by a number of factors, not given to simple answers. We have reviewed the case extensively. We are confident that the course of action taken by our doctor was entirely appropriate." So they said, hands clean, we didn't do anything wrong. Kathy O'Rourke, Heather's mom, she sued Kaiser Permanente for wrongful death.
Good.
The case went to arbitration and was settled for an undisclosed sum. Here's an eerie fact. Robbie from the first Poltergeist, Carol Ann's brother, in his room is a poster for Super Bowl 22, which had not taken place yet. And you know when Super Bowl 22 did take place? In 1988.
Whoa.
When Heather O'Rourke started dying.
Holy shit.
Why would you have a futuristic poster in your bedroom? Isn't that eerie?
That is weird. You're saying in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but the poster in the original Poltergeist is for a Super Bowl that had not taken place yet. And it happened to be the same one that coincided with Heather's eventual death.
Jeez.
So O'Rourke's family and agent said at the time that her scenes for Poltergeist 3 had been completed all the way back in June 1987. It's now early 1988. But for some reason, director Gary Sherman has maintained that it had not been finished and that they needed to make script changes in order to accommodate her death. And he said that it was a complete shock.
Wow.
Like he knew that she had some health issues.
It was a septic shock.
But thought it was resolved.
Jeez.
So when she died, it's like, oh my God. And he didn't want to even continue with the film.
Wow.
He went to the funeral. He was one of the pallbearers, and he discussed with some other crew members, like, yeah, I think this should be shelved. Like, nobody was in the mood anymore.
Wow.
But MGM said, not so fast,
hey,
my
pal.
dear boy.
Yeah.
Because if you don't finish it, we'll find someone that will.
Oh.
So they came up with a new ending and brought in a body double for Heather O'Rourke. Gary Sherman talks about it in this clip from the Shudder series, Cursed Films.
We just decided in that room that day, the day before the funeral, that we were not going to finish the film.
Oh, poor
Film's
kid.
over. I can't go back into the cutting room or watch this film with this dead 11-year-old in it. Afterwards, the board at MGM just said to us, you're going to finish the film. We got a lot of money invested in the film. You're going to finish the film. So they said, you'll have to come up and do an ending that won't involve Heather. So we came up with the idea for the stupid ending that's on the film now.
Stupid
and
ending.
Use the double for Heather. That was the creepiest thing I've ever gone through in my life. Having this little girl dressed up as Heather, keeping her face away from camera. I really just did not want to finish the film. None of us would go along with the studio and do any publicity for the release of the movie.
Wow.
None of us wanted the movie released, but it was.
Oof, that's powerful.
Yeah. And there is a dedication to Heather O'Rourke, but it's not a prominent credit, much like Tobe Hooper's in the original Poltergeist.
Wow.
So it has the usual scroll at the end, and then somewhere in there it says, in memory of Heather O'Rourke, which is kind of odd considering she was the life force of the franchise.
Yeah.
So needless to say, that puts a damper on the whole thing. Some other people have said that the movie was finished and they just came up with a new ending.
Yeah.
That they liked better. But anyway.
God.
If you watch it, it's very weird. She disappears from most of the latter half of the movie. And then suddenly when everything's solved at the end, the uncle is holding a body double with her face not being shown, like smiling. They're all like happy family.
They all hug.
Yeah, the ghosts are gone. Another weird thing about that movie is they wanted to bring back the evil Henry Cain, and Julian Beck obviously wasn't available. So they used a mask that looked like Julian Beck and put it on another old actor.
Yeah, they showed a piece of him in that footage, and it does not look anything like him.
No. And the rumor is that they did a cast of him after he died.
Whoa. Yeah, I don't like that.
So.
Hey, can we dig this guy up so we can make a mask of him?
Yeah.
In case we want to Crispin Glover his ass in here.
So if you're keeping track, right, then Poltergeist 1, Dominique Dunne, Lou Perriman, Poltergeist 2, Will Sampson, Julian Beck, and Poltergeist 3, Heather O'Rourke.
God. You think it's so tragic that, the youngest person that'll die is Dominique Dunne, and then, God, someone 10 years younger than her.
Yeah.
So are they saying that, I know you said it wasn't Crohn's disease, it was the blockage, but did they misdiagnose the tapeworm like that was the blockage?
That's what I think.
Wow. So she didn't even actually have a tapeworm. It was just...
Well, they called it a parasite.
Parasite, yeah.
So maybe the infection to them looked like it was caused by a parasite. I'm not exactly sure.
Jeez.
But the mom said it was a complete misdiagnosis. And when Poltergeist 3 was released, there was a lot of talk about the curse.
Yeah, at that point.
And it's something that really bothers the living members of the cast and crew.
Right.
So Zelda Rubinstein took to the media and gave an interview about it to Showbiz Today on CNN.
My dog died.
Let's see what she has to say about the whole thing.
I owe it to Heather to present her case as most honestly and lovingly as I can, I loved this child very much, and I am still very grieved at her passing. Heather died because of an undetected congenital anatomical defect. Julian Beck died from cancer in his mature years. Will Sampson passed away after receiving a heart-lung transplant. It's my understanding he had an environmental disease. And Dominique Dunne died at the hands of an extremely ill-directed, passionate boyfriend. These are reasons I do not call this a jinx.
Passionate?
Ill-directed.
That's one way.
That's a very bad way to say it.
Yeah, no, the first movie was ill-directed because they couldn't even decide on a director. This guy was a complete fucking lunatic. Ill-directed. She's got more to say.
I think that it's pretty much a courtesy to put to an end this superstitious crap.
Okay, if you say so, Zelda.
I hate to break it to you, but it's kind of a big deal that Heather O'Rourke died out of the blue.
Yeah.
And that brings us to
final thoughts.
Don't get involved with Steven Spielberg.
Oh my God. I heard that you might have some blind items for us.
Yes.
Okay, because the death is just so weird of Heather O'Rourke.
Yeah. These span over the years, recent years, where people have come out of the woodwork and given a new take on how Heather O'Rourke actually died. And it ain't good. So if you're offended by, certain things, trigger warning here.
Major trigger warning. You can just turn off this episode at this point.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Because I think these blind items are going to be very shocking and involve not so nice things.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this if they're familiar. If not, very upsetting stuff. So I've kind of alluded to it, but in November 2017, there was a blind item that was published.
I believe on Crazy Days and Nights.
Okay. And it comes out swinging right away. The first three words are molesters killed her. Back in the mid-'80s was peak child molesting time in Hollywood. There was no internet. There were very, very few mobile phones. Children came to the set where they were left alone by their parents. For the next 8 hours, they were subject to every kind of horrible thing you can imagine. Drugs were commonplace. They were used to try to get the kids to not be so hysterical when being assaulted. Producers loved casting shows with kids and tweens.
Oh my God.
And this, was before tweens was even a word.
Right.
If someone pitched a show that involved a handful of tweens with a dozen tween extras per week, it would get a green light, even if the show was going to suck. And everyone knew it was going to suck. If you got the right pedo at a studio, he would say yes, just to come for the casting and the taping of the pilot. As sad as it is to say, there were a lot of parents who told their kids to go off with the nice man in the suit and do what he says. It was a sick, sick time.
Yeah, the 80s was full of all kinds of shows with kids.
Yeah. It was just past the mid-'80s when a producer came up with the idea of a tween show that not only would feature a rotating cast of extras, but would make the studio a bunch of money because they would film quickly and not hire any adults. Further, the faster they filmed, the more time they would have to molest all the kids. From the first day, it was the worst place on earth if you were a kid. The studio where the show was filmed also had several other shows being filmed there, most of which featured lots of children. Executives would drive over to Hollywood right before lunch and would stay at the studio for several hours each day.
So actually the show is Rocky Road that they're referring to. And it's the same studio apparently where Jeopardy was filmed.
Oh, wow.
Hollywood Center Studios.
Jeez. Anyway, on this particular show, there was a special guest star. Still not a tween, everyone knew who she was. Executives flocked to the studio that day to see her.
Heather O'Rourke.
She was first molested when she was 5 or 6 and had continued to be molested throughout her hit movies and also on a previous show.
The previous show is Webster.
Wow. One of the stars of the show, who has spent her life bouncing in and out of rehab because of what she saw, described the atmosphere that day as a bunch of fucking pigs.
Marcianne Warman is supposedly this older actress that witnessed this.
Yeah. She says they're a bunch of fucking pigs. I had just turned 12 or 13. I was the same age as the actress coming in, maybe a little older. We had been shooting for months and I was old news. Yeah. So as soon as they're turning, about to hit puberty, then they're old news. She says, they knew I would do what they wanted, but they always wanted someone new. This was someone new and someone they all knew. They had it set up like a peep show almost. She had finished shooting that morning and they brought her out on a stage. The stage was used most of the time for a game show that was taped there. That's the Jeopardy. That game show is still on today. I can't watch it knowing what happened to her there.
What did Alex Trebek have to do with it?
Jesus. Ugh.
I know what she means, though. It's
getting molested on the set of Jeopardy while no one was there. That's insane.
Yeah. Maybe not exactly. This time was while he turned around and all that.
Well, yeah, but it's still the stage.
I don't think it was on Alex's podium.
Yeah. I'll take no thank you for 500, Alex. They brought her out, and the front 4 rows of this theater was filled with guys who were already rubbing themselves. The girl was wearing a bikini. The show took place around a beach just so they could make the girls wear next to nothing.
Ugh.
They had her walk around under the lights. The lights were focused on her, and she couldn't really see out to the audience. She was squinting. It must have been blinding for her. They had her walk back and forth, and they had her start dancing. All of these guys were doing what another star at the same studio got busted for.
Oh, shit. This is alleging the other star was Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Well, we know that he had vintage European...
classy boy porn in print.
Physique magazines.
Yeah.
And those were discovered during the Jeffrey Jones investigation.
Yes. This went on for about 20 minutes. Then 3 guys took her to a different area of the studio. She didn't see what happened, but about 45 minutes later, one of those guys came running out and needed a set medic. Apparently, they had inserted something inside the girl and things were bad.
No.
The medic came and the ambulance came. The parents of the girl were told some crap story. That crap story ended up killing the girl because the parents believed the executives. 2 weeks later, the show finished shooting 6 episodes all at once, and then everyone was sent on their way forever. No one wanted the kids around or any witnesses to what had just happened. So yeah, that's about Heather O'Rourke.
So because of what they did to her, that caused the blockage?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. But that's also, if there was something inserted and was stuck, that's something that doctors would have found.
Right.
And reported back on what they found in there. They just said it was a blockage, so I'm guessing it was just...
I don't think they mean literally, Kyle, that they left something up there. I think that they just messed her system up.
Oh, okay.
That's what the implication is. Because obviously they would have found whatever if it was an actual.
Well, I thought that's what they were getting at, that they lodged an object and it got stuck.
They said that, but I'm saying I think that just messed things up.
Yeah.
That was sort of like the nasty rumor was that horrible things had happened to her.
Yeah.
And that's what led to her getting sick. Now, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would lead to her intestinal failure and all that.
Well, if you get a perforated colon, then you get all the toxins leaking into your system and bloodstream, and it's not good.
Right. So her sister Tammy has a daughter, and so this is technically Heather's niece.
Yeah.
She took to social media to call all the sexual abuse rumors complete crap.
Tammy's daughter did?
Yeah.
Wow.
Saying that it's a disservice to Heather's memory.
Wow.
To substantiate those rumors.
I mean, that is a huge claim.
She was never abused, says Heather's niece.
Mm-hmm.
That her mom took good care of her.
Oh, so it's an ego thing.
And
for her mother.
All the people on set, including Spielberg, took care of her.
Wow.
I want to know where Spielberg was, though, when she was dying. Because he made a lot of money off her likeness.
Yeah.
Why didn't he step in?
Who knows? There's another one. This one's quick, but they're pretty much comparing this girl, Lucille Rickson, to the Heather O'Rourke story.
Yeah.
She had been, forced to play adult roles and do adult things.
And this was in the silent movie era.
Yes. She was used and abused and was dying and slowly died of tuberculosis.
Oof.
And her mother died of grief because she knew she allowed these things to happen to her for fame and money. A couple weeks after the mom died, the actress died.
Ugh.
Yeah. I completely see how that can destroy a family. The same thing happened to Shirley Temple. When she was a little kid, her and her mother were brought to the studio, and one of the studio execs was like, all right, why don't you come to my office? We have some business to talk about with your daughter. They were going to make a deal for movies, and Shirley Temple and her mother were raped in separate rooms by studio executives.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're really lifting the veil of Hollywood here.
Yeah, it's brutal. She was assaulted. I don't know if she was fully raped, but Shirley Temple and her mother were both assaulted at the same time in different rooms. They were separated. So I completely see how this happens, even when the mother was there and it happened to her. November 2020, this one says, The Tomb. For nearly a decade, the things that occurred at the tomb of this deceased A-list child star, Heather O'Rourke, actually resulted in her body being permanently moved to an unmarked grave in 2001. She was originally placed in an above-ground mausoleum at the Westwood Memorial Park, which is still marked with her name, and at which people still leave flowers and teddy bears. The weird stuff began happening the day after her interment. A man was seen after sundown taking a bouquet of flowers from her grave, but he fled before he could be identified. In the summer of 1988, someone used red spray paint to write "all worn out" RR, meaning Rocky Road.
Which is the show that Heather was on in the other blind item you went over.
Mm-hmm.
Rocky Road. I'd never even heard of that one.
Yeah.
So they really made these ridiculous shows just for the sole purpose of nefarious activities.
Yeah.
Allegedly, supposedly. That's a wild idea, though. Jesus.
Yeah.
My God. That explains half of the weird kids shows out there.
Yeah. Gosh. Pickle boy.
Oh,
The family was notified, it was photographed, and then over the course of 5 hours, the vault was cleaned. The police were called, but they didn't think it was important. For whatever reason, the photograph didn't develop properly. Sometime in the fall of 1988, another man, probably the same as before, but there's no way of knowing, was spotted kneeling in front of her tomb after dark. He also fled when spotted. On the anniversary of her death in 1989, her family gathered at the tomb to remember her. It was very somber. They held hands, and the sister placed a little stuffed Dumbo in front of the grave. As they were about to leave, a man approached them and said something which frightened the mother. Her dad and stepdad each took her by an arm and led her away.
Could you imagine if the guy looked like Julian Beck?
Yeah, you're gonna die.
He's like, hey, it's just Craig T. Nelson.
Hey, I just got this mask.
Just wanted to say hi. I'm doing coach now.
Yeah. What are you guys up to? Oh, nothing? The unidentified man stayed behind and picked up the little Dumbo that the sister left and stuffed it into his pocket before taking off. Now, here's where things get strange.
Oh, now.
There wasn't much activity around her grave for several years. Then, in about 1991, her body was exhumed.
By who?
It was done in the dark so no one would notice. Her body was returned to the tomb 3 days later.
Oh, my God.
How do they even know that? In 1992, her body was exhumed a second time.
This is all speculative, by the way.
Yeah, this is a blind item.
These are blind items.
One of the police present was asked why they were exhuming her again. He said, "What do you mean again?" Turns out the first exhumation wasn't legal, even though they had looked like real police and had really good paperwork.
Oh, my God. That's how people steal palm trees around L.A. They put on the orange vest and go out there at night and cut down the palm trees like they work for the city.
Christ.
Because I guess they're worth a lot on the black palm market.
Oh, boy.
But what are they exhuming her for?
That's what they say here. They said, what did they want with the body of a deceased 12-year-old? Surely it would warrant an investigation, right? Nope. Anyway, the coroner's office kept her for about a week before she was brought back, and we reinterred her. In 1994, somebody had smashed the face of her tomb, removed the body, cut some hair from her head, and fortunately placed her back in the crypt. A worker there saw the corpse and said she looked remarkably well preserved.
Now we know that worker looked like Julian Beck.
Yeah. He started to float the possibility that her body had actually been replaced with a replica.
Oh, no.
The police investigation went nowhere.
Which is like Poltergeist 3, Through the Looking Glass.
Yeah.
Where there's the alternate universe version of her.
Jesus. In 1999, there was another vandalism of the tomb. It wasn't another smashing, but red spray paint had been used again to write, "BK killed me."
BK.
Bruce Kane.
A developer, apparently.
In the summer of 2001, her family had her body moved to an unmarked below-ground grave.
Sounds like a good idea after all that.
Who the hell is Bruce Kane?
It says some kind of developer. Let me follow this link.
He's known for Rocky Road.
Oh, no. He's one of the producers of that. Now I got to look up Rocky Road after all this talk.
He's the creator of Rocky Road.
So there were 71 episodes of Rocky Road starting in 1985, and IMDb says it's about 3 siblings, Jessica, Robbie, and Cindy, who run an ice cream parlor that they inherited from their recently deceased parents.
Oh my God.
So it's a show about kids without parents, because in the blind item, it also mentioned that they liked creating shows that didn't need adult actors if they could.
I literally just got the chills.
Yeah, that's really fucking creepy.
I just got it again.
Okay. Fuck. I can't. This is supposed to be a comedy podcast.
Yeah, this is
a little too creepy.
Oh God, that scared the shit out of me too. Okay, October 2021. This is the last one before we get the hell out of here, I guess. While filming a documentary, Heather O'Rourke, She Was Here, about her child actress sister, Heather O'Rourke, who was brutally murdered. Tammy O'Rourke, said she regrets every single day the lunch she was having in a commissary with her sister when this A-plus list director, Steven Spielberg, walked up and joined them. The actress would still be alive if she hadn't let the director sit down. She said that on camera? It sounds like...
We got to look into this further. The thing is, though, Kyle, before you rush to judgment of Mr. Spielberg, she could be just saying, oh, isn't that interesting if Heather hadn't been discovered for Poltergeist? Maybe like the butterfly effect. The whole world would be different, if she had done something else.
I mean, she could have said it like that, or she could have said it like, She said she regrets every single day.
It's all a blur at this point, I'm sure.
What a creepy little system.
By the way, there is one more really short blind item from August 2023.
Okay.
It says, does it seem strange that the little girl actress who died in such a horrible way had a very large collection of gifts and personalized items from the illiterate action star, Heather O'Rourke, Sylvester Stallone?
What?
So now we're going to ruin Rocky for you, too.
Say illiterate?
Illiterate.
Oh, illiterate.
Illiterate, like Sylvester Stallone.
Damn, that's crazy if he's illiterate and got best screenplay.
Yo, Adrian.
I can't read. Get over here. Bring your 12-year-old sister.
Yeah. So if that's true, this reaches farther than we even thought.
Oh, God.
This is going from Spielberg to Stallone.
What have we done?
To Bruce Kane.
We've opened up the portal, I think. And a bunch of pedophiles are going to start falling through.
I need to close the portal.
Yeah.
All right, do you have any final thoughts on any of this? We know our thoughts on these blind items. We're very creeped out right now.
Yeah, extremely.
But how about the Poltergeist curse itself? Is there a curse, or was it all just coincidence and bad luck?
I mean, I just think it's horrible shit luck that Dominique Dunne and Heather O'Rourke died.
Right, because the other 3 deaths were age appropriate. It's not so tragic when it's someone that's above 65. Although Will Sampson was in his early 50s.
I was going to say 50s, it's still too early, but still kind of like, it happens, But, yeah, I don't know. Curse, no. Shitty situations, absolutely.
Yeah, because saying there's a curse, that would be us admitting that we believe in magical thinking and the supernatural.
Which I don't.
So I'm going to say I don't, but I know the moment I say this, I'm going to run into Julian back outside.
You're going to die.
I don't believe in the devil, but I fear him.
You better.
Okay, what is that sound, though?
You've got mail.
Sounds like a mailbag.
We got some good ones here.
Wow, wow, wee wah.
On Apple, there's a review from Taby Hustlin'.
Ooh.
Titled, I Love You, 5 stars. I've never been so captivated by a podcast before. Yours is the only one I think about and keep checking back for new episodes. Hooked.
Wow.
Then on our last episode, Dominique Dunne, Poltergeist Curse Part 1, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Super Ray Gun wrote, excellent episode. I've always been fascinated and saddened by this case. I remember going to the library trying to look up more info on the outcome when I was a kid. Poltergeist was a childhood favorite of mine too, so much so that my ma forbid me to watch it on cable for a while because she was so sick of it.
Super Ray Gun, I like that.
Yeah.
Ray Gun's the really bad hip-hop dancer from the Olympics.
Oh, okay.
And so Super Ray Gun, that means like they're really, really bad.
Oh, wow. And then Super Van Emily Peterson
Another super.
We missed you. Glad you're healthy again.
Bye-bye whooping cough.
Yeah, we're both very happy to be here. Me and Kyle were stricken with it.
And my son.
I know. How's he doing?
He coughed a little bit today, but it was like the tiniest little thing and he was done.
Wow, that's
great.
So good to hear.
Yeah.
Kind of like our lingering coughs too.
Yeah.
Not as bad as it was. And if you listen to the Tiger King episode.
Oh, you can hear how sick.
That was me almost 2 months in.
Yeah.
And I still sounded like that. So we're very happy to be here. Thank you, Emily. And then finally, from Farpoint Station, this is a hard case to get your hands wrapped around, but you guys really laid it out well. It seems like everyone around Dominique recognized she was in the grip of domestic violence, but choked when it came time to stop it.
That's a lot of gallows humor.
I appreciate your guys' take, and quality episodes like this will keep me throttling that like button.
Yeah, I didn't miss all the grip, wrap your hands around and choke.
That's so. I didn't even notice that while reading it.
I know you're reading it. I'm like, you're really.
Now I got the chills again, actually. That's brilliant, though.
Yeah.
Wow, this was a lot.
It was a lot.
Oh, my God. And you really came in hot on
Sold Spielberg.
On the most prolific and powerful producer in the history of Hollywood. So I think you ruined your chances of starring in Hook 2.
All right. I mean, he didn't get along with, what's her face? Julia Roberts.
That's true. He called her Tinker Hell.
I could be the new Tinkerbell.
There you go.
It's a new world out there.
Okay. And it's an old world in here because we are Death and Entertainment. We're here every Wednesday.
Yes.
And you know where to rate us. Wherever you are, whatever the star system is.
5 stars.
Give us the max.
Yes.
And spread the word.
That's right. Tell your friends.
And until next week.
Don't go dying on us.
Bye.
You have just heard
a true Hollywood murder mystery.
I have never seen anything like this before.
The movies, Broadway, music, television, all of it.
A place that manufactures nightmares.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.
Good night. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon.